What's up, everybody? It's the Bucky Brooks Show. I'm Bucky Brooks. This show is put on by FanDuel Sportsbook. So I'm excited today because coming off the weekend, seeing all the preseason games, a lot of opinions, a lot of thoughts, a lot of analysis on not only some of the top players that showed up and showed out, but some of the rookie quarterbacks that we've been pining to see. We had a chance to break those guys down. And then we'll talk about some trade news involving Trey Hendrickson. But let's go to the spectacular showing last night. Caleb Williams looks like the real deal for the Bears under Ben Johnson. And everyone has talked about this pairing, this matchup where you had Ben Johnson, a guy who really did a great job of building Jared Goff back into a Pro Bowl quarterback. In fact, built him into such a monster that the Detroit Lions became a title contender under his direction, under the marriage between Ben Johnson and Jared Goff. The Chicago Bears plucked Ben Johnson, named him the head coach, and they're hoping that he could do the same for Caleb Williams. So a lot of conversation, little snippets and highlights of Caleb Williams, the tough love approach from Ben Johnson. But we finally got a chance to see what it looked like in game action when the Chicago Bears took on the Buffalo Bills Sunday Night Football. It was great to see what we thought Caleb Williams could be. And what I'm going to tell you is he was fantastic in this offense. Caleb Williams was terrific, led a touchdown drive, 92-yard touchdown drive right out the gate. You saw him display the things that many of his ardent supporters have talked about. This is a generational talent, someone with the arm talent and the playmaking ability to take this franchise to another level. I'm going to say this first drive, those first two drives that he was on the field, he looked nothing short of the all-pro that many expect him to eventually become. Now, let's keep everything in context because it's important to note that the Buffalo Bills were playing their twos, didn't play their starters. The Bears were playing with their starters, so it was a little bit of an unfair fight. And even though we know that preseason games don't count, the performances that we see do matter. And this matters because the first time we saw Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams operate together, Caleb Williams looked like a number one overall pick and someone who looks like he has the ability to be elite in this offensive system. And I know that's kind of like putting the cart ahead of the horse, but I think what you have to do is look at not only how he performed, but the way that they scripted things for how Caleb Williams was able to perform at that level. Meaning, we saw the ball go to the tight ends, Cole Kmet, Colston Loveland. We saw DJ Moore get involved early. We saw a great touchdown to Olamide Zacchaeus, which was on a great switch route concept where they broke inside and Caleb Williams delivered the ball on time and they scored. You just could see how they're putting this together. And we didn't even mention what the running game is going to be, as Ben Johnson prefers to have a physical running game, one that they utilize to kind of set the table for some of the things they want to do in the passing attack. But you saw this offense have a dynamic feel to it because Caleb Williams was in rhythm. I'm going to be honest. I wasn't a true believer last year when I saw Caleb Williams play. And part of it was the body language. Part of it was just the loosey-goosey playing style that he displayed. But the guy that showed up on Sunday was disciplined. He was buttoned up. He was detailed. The ball was out on time. It was on target. He worked the middle of the field, which is always a challenge sometimes for young players because there's so many bodies. And he did it under center and in the gun. And even though we know they're saving their good stuff for the regular season, you can already envision what this offense is eventually going to be like. When we go back and you study that opening drive where they went 98 yards and they had a bootleg, came out early to Colston Loveland, came back, hit Cole Kmet down the seam, came back again on a deep bender to Loveland that he catches right over top of a linebacker in a sweet spot where Caleb Love anticipated the coverage and baited a guy to kind of come down on the check down and threw it over the top. You love that. And then I told you, Zacchaeus being able to come on that switch route with an F post where they hit him on the slant and it's on target on a third down situation. All the things that we had concerns about when it came to Caleb Williams, touch, timing, rhythm, can we get it out on time? Can we play on schedule? He did those things. And what's scary is this is just the beginning of this relationship, and we really haven't even got to the good stuff when it comes to the plays and how Ben Johnson is going to match up the plays to match Caleb Williams' skills. I think if you're a Bears fan, you have to be excited because Caleb Williams finally looked like the guy that everyone thought he was going to be coming out of SC. And if Ben Johnson can do this in an offseason, training camp, and a few preseason games, imagine what this thing could look like at the end of this season. If I'm a Bears fan, I'm excited. I'm excited because we have a chance to really emerge as a dark horse contender. And maybe with this quarterback, maybe we can even dream bigger dreams. Now, if you go to FanDuel Sportsbook and you're looking at the odds say the Bears are plus 4,000. The odds are plus 4,000 for the Bears to win the Super Bowl. I'm not quite ready to say, hey, go rush out and lay a wager on that. But I am going to say, based on this performance, and I know it's against the Buffalo Bills twos, Caleb Williams is the real deals, and the Bears look like a formidable foe in the NFC. Let's keep an eye on the Windy City and that quarterback that is blossoming under one of the best play callers in the game, in Ben Johnson. Now, let's go to the rookie report. We're going to talk about the quarterbacks specifically and how the young quarterbacks are playing. Last year in the draft, we saw some unique things where we saw a lot of teams pick young quarterbacks to be their franchise guys. Some of those were taken in the first round. Talk about the Tennessee Titans, the New York Giants. Some of those guys were selected in the second round. Tyler Shough going to the New Orleans Saints. Some of those guys were even selected maybe in the third round with Dillon Gabriel having a debut performance for the Cleveland Browns. Let's break down each of their performances and talk about if they're trending in the right direction. Cam Ward is up to bat, number 1 overall pick. Did have a great showing against the Atlanta Falcons. When you look at the numbers aren't impressive. 2 for 7, 42 yards. Not quite the day that you want to see. They had 3 drives. Couldn't really put points on the board, but those numbers are skewed because there was a big drop by Van Jefferson that would have really impacted the game. Couldn't make the catch. And it's one of those things where if you do that, the stat line looks different because that was going to be a chunk game. And then you had another play that was out of bounds that, he delivered it, put it right in the basket, but it just wasn't on the field to play. What you like about Cam Ward and what he was able to do against the Falcons, you liked how he played on time. You like the leadership and the intangible qualities that he shows with his teammates. You can see that. You can feel that. There's a different vibe around the Titans offense. But you want to see more consistency from the entire group. You want to see a higher level of play from him, but he's a rookie. So he has to settle in and really understand what he's doing. And because we know that he's going to be the starter, I think what they're doing is you're trying to throw a lot at him so they can pare it down later once they understand what he can do, what he doesn't do so well, and what they eventually want him to be able to add to the repertoire as they get into the regular season and kind of move down the regular season and start adding things to his plate as he gets more comfortable. Overall, I would say performance was solid, could be better, but when you're a rookie starting and you don't necessarily have a lot around you, you can have some of the ups and downs that we've seen from Cam Ward. You hope in week 3, if they start him, if they play him, he gets a chance to develop that rhythm, and maybe he and Kevin Ridley and some of the other playmakers can connect, and they go into the regular season with a little momentum. The New York Giants, I said this last week, man, how long are we going to wait before Jaxson Dart is the starting quarterback for the New York Giants? I understand Russell Wilson was solid against the Jets, and let's be honest, the Giants mollywopped the Jets, had their way with them. It's a preseason game, but it was clear and apparent that the Giants were getting after it when it came to the New York Jets. The guy that was really getting after it to me was Jaxson Dart. Look, he completed 14 of his 16 passes, and when you look at the way that he operated, it reminded me of how he played at Ole Miss. Not only him and the way that he operated from the pocket, quick rhythm throws, getting the ball out of his hands quickly, understanding how to stretch the field horizontally, and then taking the shots vertically, some RPOs that were added to the mix, slow screens, quick screens, deep shots. All of that was kind of baked into the cake. And what I like about this is you can already see where Brian Daboll is using some of his creativity to unlock some of the talents that Jaxson Dart has. Last week, I called him Josh Allen Jr. I'm not saying that he's going to be an MVP, but I do believe that Brian Daboll, when he identified Jaxson Dart as the guy that the Giants wanted, he certainly saw some of the positive qualities and characteristics that Josh Allen exhibited when he was the play caller in Buffalo and Josh Allen really became a star in the league. When I look at Jaxson Dart, there are a lot of similar qualities in terms of like how quick the ball comes out, the athleticism that he brings to the table, the comfort, the ease with which he plays when it comes to the RPO game. Love all of that stuff in his game. Not quite the dynamic athlete that Allen is, but you saw the Giants take advantage of his legs, use his athleticism, encourage him to run. He scrambles out. He's able to pick up some things on his legs. He has the ability to play inside or outside the pocket because of his mobility. And that really allows Brian Daboll to attack the defense in so many different ways. And what we're seeing as the Giants are kind of honing in on their playing style, not just with Dart, but with Russell Wilson, you're seeing a team that's really making a concerted effort to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands. Russell Wilson got the ball out quickly. You didn't see these long, exaggerated routes where they're trying to get these chunk plays on these things. We saw the ball come out fast, and they trusted playmakers to make the things happen on the perimeter. This offense almost had a collegiate feel, which is why I wrote in my notes, man, this feels like Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin and what they used to do. Jaxson Dart has the ability to do that. And if you think about what the Giants were able to do a few years ago with Danny Dimes, when they went to the playoffs, when no one expected them to go, a lot of it was Brian Daboll catering this offensive game plan to the skills of the quarterback, not kind of exposing some of the weaknesses or the vulnerabilities or the areas of concern, but really having the quarterback play to his strengths. In Jaxson Dart, it's a preseason game, but he certainly is calling the game to play to Jaxson Dart's strengths. Quick rhythm, ball out, the run game, quarterback run game, impromptu quarterback run game, all of those things. So as we head into week 3, where I expect Jaxson Dart to get some more action, man, I would expect Brian Daboll and the Giants to really build a game plan for him as if he's going to play the entire game. And even though there's not a quarterback competition, there is behind the scenes the Giants looking at, okay, where is he? Look at how far he's come. Where can we get him to before there's a natural break in the schedule where maybe we insert him as QB1? Typically, that happens right around the bye week. So week 3 will be interesting because that will be the real preview for how the Giants will play with Jaxson Dart if and when he becomes the starting quarterback for the team, whether it's this year or this next year. But we're going to get a preview for what that looks like in week 3. Now, let's go to the game that I was at. The New Orleans Saints welcomed the Jacksonville Jaguars. Tyler Shough, their second-round pick, got the start. There was a lot of fanfare about this. There was an expectation that if Tyler Shough played very well, he would be named the starting quarterback. I will say this. When you look at the stat line, you'll say, okay, he completed 9 of 12 passes, 66 yards. He led them to 3 points on 4 first-half drives. Is that enough to give him the job? I would say no, because Spencer Rattler came in the second half and led the Saints back, and they tied the game. But when you look at the two quarterbacks, it was clear to me Spencer Rattler had a little better command than Tyler Shough had of the offense at this moment. Now, what Shough does, and having a chance to watch him in pregame, man, he throws a pretty ball. The ball comes out, it spins, has great zip, velocity when he's doing his impromptu movements and those things in pregame. You can see why they were fascinated with bringing him in and the potential to have an older rookie step in and be the starting quarterback. 25 years old. He's had a lot of experience at the collegiate level. There's an expectation that you can get him ready to play. I'll say this. The Jacksonville Jaguars didn't really ramp it up, but Tyler Shough had a problem dealing with the pressure. And when the pressure got to him, it changed the way that he played. It doesn't show up in the incompletions, but took a few sacks, didn't look like the most comfortable player in the pocket in the midst of the storm. And it's one of the things that he has to work on, because that was some of the stuff that showed up in the scouting report when you watched his Louisville tape. Can get uncomfortable, can get a little jittery in the pocket. And when he's not firm and solid in the pocket, he is a much different player. The Saints have time to work this out, but if you're telling me that the Saints have to start a player, they have to start a quarterback and pick it right now, it would for me to endorse Tyler Shough based on what we just saw from him in that game against the Jaguars. Saw the arm talent, saw some of the promise that he has, but in terms of the performance wasn't enough to wow you, to make you have to hand him the keys to the offense. I think this one goes another week, and Tyler Shough is going to have to play much better in week 3 for me to feel confident enough to say, hey, he should be QB1. Lots of potential, but potential will get you fired if it doesn't translate in performance. We need to see more from Tyler Shough so we can confidently give him the QB1 job. And not only us, but everyone in the locker room will feel good about him being a starting quarterback because he earned it, and it was clear based on his performance, not the coaches just giving it to him because he was the second-round draft pick and there's an expectation that he was going to play. Final guy, Dillon Gabriel. Now, Dillon Gabriel is interesting because he found himself in the crosshairs because he made a comment regarding entertainers and competitors, and there were people that were wondering if he was sneak dissing Shedeur Sanders. Time will tell if it was a sneak diss, but it certainly didn't come off well in that moment. And the reason why it didn't come off well is because despite the numbers, 13 for 18, 143 yards, Dillon Gabriel didn't play great against the Philadelphia Eagles. He had an interception. That was a pick six. He lost a fumble, another costly turnover. And in a game in which the turnover battle is the biggest deciding factor, your quarterback can't put the ball in harm's way, and he can't give it away to the other team on careless errors. When I looked at Dillon Gabriel, I would say the positives are this. Man, when he is on the script and they open up the game and he knows exactly what to do and he's able to play decisive, man, the accuracy, the ball placement, the timing and rhythm of the offense is next level. Comes out on time. He hits the receivers in those windows. All of that was superb. He manages the game and manages the team well. But he should, as a player that had over 60-plus starts at a collegiate level. The game is not too fast for him. The big thing for Dillon is the size and his stature makes it tough. Sometimes he has to throw from the well in the pocket to remain an accurate thrower, and then understanding how to play to the next play, meaning if I need to take the check down, take the check down. If I need to scramble to avoid a negative play, then I'm scrambling to avoid a negative play. Despite his experience, he still needs to be more efficient with the plays that are determined by him. If he can be more efficient, whether it's in the running game or the passing game in terms of getting the team in the right call, executing the play to the coach's desires, to what the coach's expectation, then he'll have a chance to move up the charts. But on this performance, look, man, I think he probably opened the door for more questions than providing more answers, which will make week 3 of the preseason very interesting in Cleveland. Speaking of why it's interesting in Cleveland, by the way, the Cleveland Browns are their odds are minus 280 to surpass 4.5 win total. 4.5 wins, minus 280. You may want to jump on that because maybe the Browns are better than we anticipate. But FanDuel is not a believer. We'll see if FanDuel is right at the end of the season. But the Browns made news on Monday because they named Joe Flacco the starting quarterback. Not really a surprise. Everyone kind of expected Joe Flacco to be the starter after he was signed to the team to protect and provide insurance against Deshaun Watson having a lengthy layover, not coming back, them not wanting to have him as a quarterback. That was a thing. Joe Flacco also hedging, allowing them to hedge their bet against any young quarterback that can come in and potentially be a franchise quarterback. And those things, they don't have to rush a young quarterback onto the field. The thing that we all knew, Kevin Stefanski and Joe Flacco have a thing for one another in terms of the trust. Joe Flacco led the Cleveland Browns to the playoffs. Joe Flacco was NFL Comeback Player of the Year a couple years ago. Joe Flacco thrives in this offense. You're Kevin Stefanski, and maybe you're feeling a little bit of the heat. It's a no-brainer to start your season with Joe Flacco in the QB1 seat. And for Joe Flacco, it makes a lot of sense. Even though he's 40 years old, he can do this thing in his sleep in terms of getting the ball out of his hands, getting it to the playmakers, complementing a defense that still can be salty given their personnel, but understanding how to manage the game in a way that you complement the defense. Complementary football. Joe Flacco and his umpteenth years of experience at 40 years old. He knows how to play the game. He's a Super Bowl champion. He's done it at a high level, so he knows how to get it. So that would be great for the young players. That would be great for players who've been on a roster that is consistently underachieved. Well, Joe Flacco has a winning spirit, and that winning spirit can galvanize and uplift some guys. But now that they've named Joe Flacco the starter, who's next? What do they do now? That's why week 3 of the preseason is fascinating to me from the Browns standpoint, because if Joe Flacco is the starter, let's just say he starts the game, plays 2-3 series, then he goes out. Who's next? Based on the way this competition has played out, I have no idea who could be next in line. If we talk about Dillon Gabriel having his opportunity against the Rams, we just poo-pooed Dillon Gabriel in the previous segment where we talked about the pick six, the fumble. Once they got off the script, it looked like the game overwhelmed him a bit, and he wasn't good enough to just seize the job or make you feel confident that he would be a great QB2. Shedeur Sanders has a bit of a wow performance in the preseason opener. Dazzled, did all that, swags back, all of that. But then he's not able to play in week 2. And the best trait that any player can have, particularly a quarterback, is, look, availability is everything. And when Shedeur Sanders was unavailable, it makes it hard to now put him in this mix and say that, hey, man, we can trust you to be the number 2 when he had to sit out of a preseason game for whatever reason. Now it brings us to Dillon. Look, and we talked about Dillon Gabriel. We talked about the performance, but can those rookies carry it? So that leaves us with Kenny Pickett, former first-round pick who they traded for before the draft, wanted to give him a chance. Kenny Pickett hasn't been on the field. The hamstring injury has prevented him from being on the field and getting into a game. Now we are 1 week away from having to make tough decisions on the roster. And we have to figure out if Kenny Pickett is good enough for us to hold on to him as the backup quarterback, or do we keep 4 quarterbacks because we like the 2 young guys, and we know that if we drop one of those guys, they're not coming back. It's over. They'll be scoffed up by the rest of the league. So that means, what are we going to do with Kenny Pickett? Well, first thing, he has to get on the field, because before we can even talk about who he is and what he is, we got to see him in action, get a feel for where he is. So when teams call, we have the ability to have an honest conversation. The thing about Kenny Pickett is he's easily the most likely trade candidate, just given his experience. Last year, spent it as a backup for the Philadelphia Eagles, the world champs. So he learned a little bit about himself and how to get hot off the bench and how to stay ready so you don't have to get ready when your numbers call. All those things are positive. But is it better to keep Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett and maybe find one of the young guys that we're willing to hitch our wagon to? Or is it better to go Joe Flacco and the 2 young guys and hope that one of those guys can jump and become a starting quarterback that you can win with? Right now, it's all speculation, and it's it's hard to decide because we haven't seen Kenny Pickett. But if Kenny Pickett plays next weekend, he has to show up and show out, because otherwise, look, man, I think he's done for. Because Joe Flacco won the job. The young guys are coming on like gangbusters. Kenny Pickett is fighting for his NFL life in Cleveland. He has to find a way to create some interest and attention on him, whether he stays or whether he goes. He has to bring the noise this weekend. Big performance for Kenny Pickett and the Browns. Last thing, let's go to the Browns' rival, the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'll be honest with you, man, I'm miffed that Trey Hendrickson has not received a new deal. So Trey Hendrickson is on the trade block. The Cincinnati Bengals said that they are willing to listen to offers for the All-Pro defensive end. This dude has been absolutely dominant, leads the league in sacks since 2023. He has 35 quarterback sacks in that span. Last year, led the league with 17 and a half. He is a guy who, even though he's over 30, he is a dominant player. Great energy, great effort, masterful when it comes to the hand skills and the technique. He wears people out using the fundamentals and like having a third lung when it comes to the energy. His relentless approach pays off. So when he is making $16 million and he's in the last year of his deal, and you're looking around the landscape and you're talking about some of the other top pass rushers in the league commanding over $35 million annually, he certainly deserves a pay raise that puts him in line with that. The problem that you have is he's over 30, and most teams kind of balk at paying big money for someone over 30, particularly if it's an outsider. When I look up, I'm looking at the money, and it's not only that he's over 30 and he's led the league in sacks, but his numbers are on par with Myles Garrett and TJ Watt over the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, this is a dude who, when you think about what those two guys are, best in the business, commanding $40 million per year, I can understand Trey Hendrickson saying, hey, you may not get me into 40, but it can't be much less than that given the production and where my production stacks up with them. I actually agree with him based on the numbers. The problem that you have is the Cincinnati Bengals cannot go to that number because they just doled out big checks to Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow's commanding significant money. So there's just not enough pie to go around. So now the Bengals are seriously having to entertain the trade possibility. And to think about the trade possibility that you have to wonder is, what is the compensation that they're looking for? Well, the insiders are saying that the Bengals want a first-round pick and a young, dominant player. I mean, that's great. We all want that. A first-round pick in 2026 and then a young player that you can put on that front line and get after. The hard thing is there's no one that's going to measure up to what Trey Hendrickson has been for the Bengals. Not the effort, not the energy, not the destruction, not this absolutely dominance that he's displayed on the edge. Nobody they can bring back is going to give them that. This is a monetary concern for the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'll be honest, they can't play the game anymore. So they have to let him go. Well, in letting him go, the Bengals talked about first-round pick and a young player. Who are the teams that could potentially offer up the compensation and not only offer up the draft capital to get him, but also have the cap flexibility to keep him? Because remember, last year the deal, he comes into this, for me to sign, I got to have a contract. I'm not just going to play a one-year deal on that. No, this has to come with some guarantees and some fully locked-in money. Well, there are a few teams. There are 3 teams that I would say keep an eye on. One, the Carolina Panthers. And the reason why the Carolina Panthers would be intriguing, not only from cap situation, but if you think about, I'm building this team and I want this team to make the leap. I have Derrick Brown on the inside, but I don't have a dominant, everybody sit up in your seat when we're looking at film, pass rusher to go with him. So if you put Derrick Brown with Trey Hendrickson, now you're cooking with gas in a division that could be winnable. The problem is, what do you want to give up in return? Give up a first-round pick, give up multiple 2s, or whatever. That's the decision that the Carolina Panthers have to make. Pairing up Derrick Brown with Trey Hendrickson is fascinating. It makes them a formidable force at the point of attack. It also puts them in a position to maybe swipe the division away from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I like it. We'll see if they're aggressive enough to do it. Logical destination, the Indianapolis Colts. Proximity, man, it's just hour and a half down the block, when you think about going from Cincinnati to Indianapolis. But the main draw is Lou Anarumo, Trey Hendrickson, and the Bengals' former defensive coordinator, is now in Indianapolis. He has some young guys, Kwity Paye, Latu, young guys that are trying to find their way as pass rushers. Why not bring in a vet, a proven commodity, someone who can get after it and playing on that turf where, man, he doesn't have to worry about anything. It's a fast track and he can go. I love it. The fact that Anarumo knows how to unleash him and unlock him, stunts, games, and those things. Because of the desperation that the Colts are in, I wouldn't put it past Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen to make this move. They have to go to the postseason to keep their jobs. Let's just be honest about that. They haven't said that publicly, but we all know they need to win. They need to win in a major way, and this would be committing to winning. That would be committing to, hey, let's get this done now because we have a closer to go with a defense that's going to play much better under our new defense coordinator and an offense that hopefully is better under the direction of either Anthony Richardson or Danny Dimes. Inside track, would say Danny Dimes is probably the one that is going to end up being the starting quarterback for the Colts. So if the Colts have the money, which they do, and they want to, man, this should be an easy one. They make the deal, trust the D coordinator to unlock and unleash Hendrickson, even though he's in the twilight of his career based on his age. I think this is one that Indianapolis coach should make. Final destination, final team to look for, the LA Chargers. The LA Chargers have the most cap space available, like over 116 million in cap space between this year and next year. They have an older pass rusher in Khalil Mack, who's 34. At some point, you want to have another guy that can fill that void, that can create chaos off the edge. They let Joey Bosa go. To me, this is a nice fit. Now, you're going to have to pony up some money, and it doesn't appear that the Chargers always like to pony up, but they got it. And so if Jim Harbaugh, gets the itch and really wants to make that defense dominant, Trey Hendrickson is the guy. You talk about having to re-up the deal, put him in that right category, over 30, 35, 40 million. But on paper, letting Jesse Minter have another weapon at the point of attack, you can't go wrong. So we'll see how that plays out, but I'm looking forward to it. So that's it. It's great to talk about all these things coming off the weekend. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe to the podcast. Check out some of my colleagues on the Believe Network, some of the other stuff that we're doing. Make sure you come back here Wednesday. That's what I'm doing. Drop another pod, The Bucky Brooks Show. Until then, I'll talk to you.